Hello, my name's James. I'm a portrait photographer from Portsmouth in the UK. You've probably not heard of me, and I welcome you to this, the latest video on the Portrait of a Wrestler YouTube channel. We're going to be taking you back to late last year, late 2020, and a shoot that we conducted in Portsmouth with Zoe Lucas to produce a calendar for her and her fan base at the end of last year. Zoe's an amazing person. We work with her loads because she's local, and we experiment a lot with ideas with her, and she's always up for doing something a little bit different. And we noticed a trend this year with all of the calendars coming out from all of the various wrestlers around the world that everything was shot on a beach in beautiful conditions with lovely lighting and bikinis and all that kind of stuff. And we decided to do something completely different to sort of stand out from the market and just to take the photography and the style in a different direction. And also because Portsmouth's really, really cold and you can't really do beach shoots at that time of the year. So we decided to go into sort of like a 1940s style in terms of like a very vogue black and white back in the sort of film era. And just take everything back to light and shade and to shoot 12 images, which we shot all in one day. 12 images for a calendar, all shot within a sort of very small 4-hour period between pretty much 11 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. That's all the sunlight we had to work with. When you're working in the winter months, the sun sort of comes up and goes down quite quickly. But in addition, when it's hard sunlight, when there's no cloud around, that sunlight is it produces a very, very hard light source, which gives you really, really deep shadows and really, really bright highlights, which can actually be quite difficult to work with, quite challenging to work with. And I can understand why so many photographers might stay away from it. I like the challenge. I liked the idea of going out there and really challenging ourselves to produce a calendar of 12 completely different images using hard light and getting 12 completely looks. We're going to take you through the months now and just sort of describe what we were trying to achieve with each shot. And have a look at the lighting and hopefully give you a little bit of guidance about how to work with natural light. For this entire shoot, we were using the new Canon Mirrorless R6 camera, which is an absolute beast. We also used the 24-105 lens, or for a couple of shots, we used the 70-200 to get a little bit longer. I'll sort of guide you through as to what we were sort of using for each shot here. We'll start off in January. And here we are. This was just gone midday, so the sun's just passed right above head height. So we started to get some slightly longer shadows through the image here. This area here on Portsmouth seafront is it's a big memorial really, and there's a big circular sort of stonework building with a big tower in the middle, and this is one end of it where you can sort of walk out between these two pillars into the light. So you can see how the light actually in the background is very, very dark, almost completely black in the shadows in the background there. We got Zoe to sort of walk through a couple of times through here, so it wasn't a case of just stand there, hold the pillar and put your leg forward. It was a case of no, just come and walk, go back, come and walk, go back a couple of times. And all the while, the sun there, as you can see with this shadow dropping down on the right hand side here, the sun is over on our right hand side, so she's always facing towards the sunshine, she's always facing towards that hard light, and she's just coming into the light as she comes out through. When she walks, we get not only natural leg posing, but we also get this lovely sort of movement within the dress here, which also feels quite natural. Not getting her to look at the camera, and we shot quite a wide angle on this one to incorporate this brickwork on the left-hand side. So this brickwork is leading your eye in. She's beautifully framed by the pillars. And then we come to the right hand side here. The only Photoshop work we've done really is just to tidy up some of the windows in the background so that they look pretty uniform really there. But quite a simple shot again, just beautiful uniform brickwork working really, really well there. And just making sure that we get the timing right so that she shot just as she's stepping into the light. If we move on to February now, this image was captured about 90 minutes earlier. So the sun was quite high overhead really. The sun was hitting this railing, which you can see in the top right hand corner here. And what that was doing was it was creating a shadow. The railing's right behind us where there's a really, really high walkway on the wall opposite where Zoe stood here. And I noticed how it was creating this sort of diagonal line down through the image and across this really rustic looking doorway. You can just see the door handle there, still got some detail in there. When we're working with hard light, you can sort of push your blacks into really, really deep blacks, but I always try and maintain a little bit of detail by controlling my exposure, either by shutter speed, aperture, or by ISO. When you're working in high sunlight as well, the ISOs can go down to sort of quite low numbers between 100 and 200, which will maintain a lot of detail, and you won't get a massive amount of grain there. This is a long coat that Zoe's wearing. So just down here, you can see that we've managed to get Zoe's leg just coming out of the side of the coat here. She's wearing sort of like a long coat. So that sort of draws your eye up through the picture from the bottom corner into the face on this sort of third, really, really extreme rule of thirds here, onto this side of the door. Lots of detail in the hair, where this is actually naturally blowing across. On the left-hand side, just out of shot, is a little archway, and the archway literally goes straight onto the sea. And that was blowing a really nice breeze straight through, which was giving us this lovely movement in the hair. And then that leads you to the line, which then draws you up to the diagonal line at the top of the picture. And it's all sort of working nicely in unison. Good use of the rule of thirds to try and give us a nice dynamic sort of range in terms of the composition of that shot. Going on to March now, and we're going back to where we were for the first shot in January. This is the same location. There's this big window way there with no glass in it at all, and the brickworks, the bricks that they used to construct this area were really, really wide. So it's very easy for someone just to jump up there and sit on there. The sun's over behind and to the right of Zoe, just around about here. So it's sort of skimming across, hitting the face and skimming across. So we can see a little bit of nose shadow on this side, but there's enough sunlight to come around and hit the side of the cheek, hit the side of the face, and just give us a nice little bit of exposure there. Ultimately, this is a challenge in exposure, particularly probably using shutter speed in this instance, to try and get a silhouette, but not something so dark that we lose all detail. We've managed to get a little bit of bounce light back in from the surrounding brickwork, even though we're working in really, really hard lighting situations, to get a little bit of detail still in the dress here, and a little bit of detail in the top, and all these areas of white have just held on just by a fraction there, so that we haven't got complete white and complete black, no lack of detail at all. Difficult to control the sky in this instance because it was quite sort of blue and fairly sort of wispy low clouds on the day. We've managed to keep a little bit of detail in there and just managed to centrally frame it in the picture with some sort of nice feet positions really just along that wall, just to draw the attention and draw the eye around the frame a little. Moving on to April now. And this was a location, we were just about to move away from this location. We've done some shots by a phone box and some shots by various bits of brickwork and various bits of architecture. And we were just about to jump back in the car, and Zoe noticed this stairwell and this railing. And it's just funny how they work really, really well together. We've chosen quite a high aperture on this one so that everything is kept in focus. The foreground of the brickwork, Zoe there in the midground, and then the railings in the background, so everything's pin sharp. Not everything in photography has to be shot at f2.8. You don't have to blur out backgrounds. You can work to maintain detail in these high sort of apertures, these tight apertures that give you lots of fine detail throughout the depth of field. Needn't be just reserved for landscape portraits. Landscape photography, they can be used in portraiture. Just paying careful attention here to the hand placement, just making sure that the hands are kindly placed. A little turn away, so again she's turning towards the light, but the light is pretty much behind us. The sun's pretty much behind us, just bouncing straight in. Only a fraction to the left hand side here. You can see a tiny little bit of shadow down here on the right hand side here, but other than that, pretty much backlit, so we know that we're going to get high contrasts. I just like the way that she's framed with the brickwork leading you in from this bottom corner. We've paid careful attention to make sure it comes right out of the bottom corner here, and then the railings behind providing sort of like a nice little framework in the background as well. I like that one a lot. Moving on to May now. And we're getting later and later in the day, so this sun is really starting to drop, and it drops quite quickly on a winter's day. And what I noticed is Zoe really wanted to do something in this black and white striped dress, which was really, really cool. And I noticed that the lighthouse on the seafront was the same colour essentially. It's a black and white tower, even though we've converted it into black and white. If you were to see it, this lighthouse on Portsmouth seafront is black and white. And I just thought it'd be nice if we just sort of married them up together, paired them up together to sort of stand side by side as if they're both sort of looking in a similar direction from each other. This was shot on a longer lens, shot on our big 70-200 to make sure that we make as much out of that lighthouse as possible. We've got a mid-range sort of depth of field really, probably somewhere around about f5.6. I do want to see detail in that lighthouse, but predominantly I want the detail to be here with Zoe. Head again turned towards the light, so it's coming straight in, and just trying to maintain a little bit of detail there in the back so that we can see the back of the dress and the back of Zoe. But yeah, quite a simple composition really, and something that was called on the day. And number 6, the last one here from June, is a beach shot. So this was getting really, really late. The sun was just, in order to tell how long we've got left of sunshine, if I can't access an app or anything quickly, I'll just hold my hand at arm's length to the horizon. And if my hand sort of fits between the sun and the horizon, I know I've got about an hour left. If the sun won't fit between that and it's a little bit lower, I know I've got less than an hour. And I know at this point that I had less than a hand's distance, so I knew that we were about 40 to 30 minutes away from losing the sun completely. We took her onto the beach. And again, this is just a very, very simple shot. Laid her down in the swimsuit on the beach, and with the low sun skimming across the stones, you've got these lovely little white and dark areas in the pebbles. The beach where we were working is a pebble beach rather than a sand one. Have her turn towards the light again, have the hands placed on the hips, and this is pretty much, apart from the leg position, this is pretty much a standard sort of pose that you would do in studio to do something dynamic, a dynamic profile, but we've just laid her down in this instance. The camera's placed over the top, looking down, and I think we've got a tiny little reflector just on this left hand side here, just bouncing a little bit of light back into the side here, just so we've got a little bit of detail in the hand here and in the side of the swimsuit here. But it's just taking something that's, it's very, very cold that day, and just trying to take a different idea to do a similar shot really, but also still using the light, still facing a model towards the light, and we're using the stones in this instance as a backdrop to give a completely different texture and feel to the picture. So that's it for this video. Next month we'll be covering the months July through to December on the calendar, and just looking at the different locations and different techniques that we used to create those images. If you like the video, then leave a comment below, give us a like, give us a subscribe. You can follow me on the Instagram and the Twitter at Y2Jimbo. It's Portrait of a Wrestler everywhere else, and as ever, all the very best.